Okay, video tutorial on a 4.0 2000 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo coil rail replacement. Okay, so I'm a little bit ahead of this job right here. I should have started it earlier, but pretty much I got the old one out. Let me pause this for a second. Okay, here's the old one, and there's the box for the new one. So when I look at the old one, visually there's nothing wrong with it. If I take out these boot plugs, I can see the distance of how much the new ones need to go in, because the new ones do not have this springs installed, or the boots. To remove it, there is a plug in the back towards the back of the firewall, and there's that plug right there. So it has a tab, you pull it back, and at the same time you slide it over. So it's a little hard to get to, but it's doable. So to get it out, you have to take the 4 mounting bolts out, and there's the holes for the mounting bolts. There's one right there, and there's 2. Okay, I believe it's a 13mm socket, but if you have a worn 1/2 inch, you can get it on there, or if you want to try to force a 1/2 inch on there, you can, but you're gonna have a hard time getting the socket off the bolt. Just get a screwdriver or a pair of pliers, hold on to the bolt, put it up against the socket, and wedge a screwdriver in between. You should be able to get it out. The new rail is already in. To get the old rail out, obviously I have this hose right here bypassed because my heater coil is bad, so I haven't gotten around to doing that. So you dismount it, take the 4 bolts out, dismount it, turn it the way it's facing right now, or like this, and it should be easier for you to reach that plug back there. As you can see, the plug's actually laying towards the back of the head over there, the green color one, right over there, right where my finger's at. Disconnect that, and then you should be able to slowly separate this AC hose and this upper radiator hose, and you might have to take this bracket off for the throttle linkage and the transmission gear selector. There might be some screws, mine doesn't have that, but it might be some nuts that hold this bracket on there. So you take that off. I just left it on one, that way you can move these lines around, and then you disconnect it from the back of the harness, turn it around, and just turn it this way and just wedge it. Obviously I only have one hand, so I have to hold this phone with the other one. Wedge it in between here and slowly work it out. Now when you get the new one, you put it back in, and then it comes with new springs and new boots. Now I have some dielectric grease right here that I'm covering the spring with, and then what I'm doing is I'm pushing the spring down carefully without bending it until you'll feel a click or a pop. That means it's going on to the terminal inside. And then you can use that same grease and you just put a little bit of it on this boot and slide it on there, and it should seat firmly up against the coil housing. Do not sit there and fight with it. It's only a little spring like I did right here, because this is what's going to happen. You're going to bend the spring, and I guess I'll find out if it's going to sit right on that. It should sit okay, because by looking here, there's really not much room for it to move around inside the boot. So the boot should guide it onto the spark plug. Yeah, I know I have a coolant leak right there from this old factory clamp. So the electric grease definitely to help with corrosion and the connectivity and the contacts because it is an electrical component. So I'm going to go ahead and finish putting the springs on and his boots on, and I'll be back. Yeah. Okay, so I got all my boots in. I got some dielectric grease on each one of them. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got my plug in. I got it over there with 2 hands. I held the rail and pushed in the plug at the same time until you hear a click. I went ahead and threw some dielectric grease on there. So if you notice the way the rail is facing, when you disconnect that plug should still be facing the way you took it off. So don't twist that plug trying to reroute it. Leave it where it's at and then hook it back up once you get the rail ready to connect it. Okay? So it's facing up. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have to put this phone down. I'm going to carefully turn this rail around where it lines up with the spark plugs. Okay, so I got my rail halfway lined up. As you can see right there, you can see the spark plug right there. So it's going in the right way. You want to make sure that it's going on correctly, because if you push it on and you bend those springs, cause damage to the spark plug or the rail. So it's on there right there. All right, and when I go to push it on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of feel right there. It popped in over here on this front. Kind of popped in right here, and I'm going to keep doing that all the way through until I can't push it in any longer. Now you don't want to force it in. If something's wrong, back up, inspect your boots, make sure everything's still correct, make sure your springs are still in place, and then start over again. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start putting in my bolts. You don't need to put Loctite on these bolts or anything. Just put them in hand tight at first. Don't use any power tools, because if you end up stripping or cross-threading this bolt, you will have some big problems. Okay, so I got my bolts tight already. For torque, I usually don't torque. I don't think this needs to be turned. What I would do is just, like I said, drive them, screw them in maybe about 3-4 times to make sure they're on track. You might have to just push hard a little until you feel it grab. The rail tends to want to drop down, so what I did is I pushed it up to line up. There's the markings on this holes, outside this holes, that helped me line it up with the head of this bolt. And then what I did is I drove it, I snugged them. Normally I would do like maybe 1 and then 2 and then 3 with the last one, and then 4 over here on the front, snug them up, and then tying them up the same way. But what I would do is I would use this 3/8 drive short handle ratchet and just kind of turn it. I think it's probably about 5 to 10 foot-pounds that it needs to be tied, not very much. Just kind of turn it until you kind of, you know, starting to strain your wrist, stop, and then maybe go about another half turn after that, and do the same thing all the way around in sequence. You don't really have to, but I would anyways. Or if you want to, you can use a longer handlebar like this one, and then you can feel it a little bit more. And what I would do is I would grab onto this end right here with this one just to stabilize it, and then kind of with the other hand go onto this side and just pull it down just nice and gently. You don't want to, it's pretty hard to break the bolts. You're gonna have to put about 40 or 50, maybe about 30 or 40 foot-pounds before you break those bolts. Those bolts are pretty tough. So, but at the same time, you don't need to, because all this is just a plastic component. And remember, you got rubber bushings back there, you got springs, and all it's doing is just making contact with the head of that spark plug. So it looks like it's good to go. Let me go ahead and start it. Okay, so there it is. Sounds pretty good. Still a little rough. Could probably replace the air cleaner or clean it if you have a reusable one, and replace the fuel filter. So with most cars 10, 15 years or older, you got the spark plug wires. This one is just a coil. What I'm doing right now, I'm just doing a summary of the problems in case, what I should have done in the beginning of the video, but I'm just going to cover some of the reasons why you might want to replace this. Okay, if you got kind of like a misfire, if you're sitting in idle and it kind of like a little bit of sound, it's not like that smooth, like that purring that a good engine should do. It's not doing that. You've already replaced the spark plugs. You've already replaced the fuel filter, the air filter, and it's still running rough. Okay, so remember, you have to remember to set the gap on every spark plug, on every engine is different. So I did that, but it was still running kind of rough even after an oil change. So what I did was I haven't replaced the rail ever. So I did that. I'm not sure if it's manufactured or not. Let's go take a look at it real quick. It doesn't look like it is. Doesn't look like it is manufactured because I don't see any Chrysler parts on it, but then I haven't cleaned it yet. But it's definitely helping. I haven't drove it yet, so we'll see how it drives. So engine running rough, air filter, fuel filter, spark plugs still running rough, oil change, of course. If it still runs rough, the coil pack, this coil packs last a long time, but they're not bulletproof, they're not lifetime. I don't think they were designed to last a lifetime, so I went ahead and changed it. It sounds a heck of a lot better. If you have any questions or anything, just let me know. Comment down below. Please like and subscribe. Okay, hopefully this video helped you guys out, and that's it. Thank you.